A very long time before European colonization, what we now know today as the United States of America used to be a vast land inhabited by Native American tribes, estimated to be around 500. Each tribe thrived in its rich traditions, unique language, and way of life. While some of these tribes stood independent, some came together to form confederacies, such as the Iroquois Confederacy, Blackfoot Confederacy, the Sioux Alliance, the Powhatan Confederacy, and the Wabanaki Confederacy. Certain tribes had more dominance and occupied far larger territories than the others. These tribes had a lot of differences that most times led to intertribal wars and conflicts among themselves pre-colonization. Most of these differences stemmed from territorial encroachment, disputes over hunting grounds, fertile lands, and control over European goods. However, they also had a lot in common, one of which was their mutual resistance against the force of the United States Army. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Natives Journal. In today's episode, we journey through time as we explore the three most brutal Native American tribes that the U.S. Army feared. Stay glued to your screen as we delve into history to see why these tribes were the most feared. Please click the like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting episodes. The most famous tribes among the Native American tribes are the Cherokee, the Navajo, the Sioux, the Apache, the Iroquois Confederacy, the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Nez Perce, the Mohican, the Choctaw, the Shoshone, the Comanche, the Cheyenne, the Shawnee, the Seminole, and the Ojibwe. All these tribes contributed significantly to the resistance and shaping of North America during this period. However, there are those that were considered the toughest to deal with, owing to their great warfare strategies and mastery, military skill in battle, leadership, and horse adaptation. Lakota Sioux Tribe. The word Lakota is interpreted as friends or allies, and Sioux refers to the vast coalition of Midwesterner Native American tribes in North America. The Lakota Sioux tribe is also called the Teton Sioux and was the largest of the three subgroups of the Great Sioux. The other two are the Dakota and Nakota. The Lakota tribe consists of 7 sects: Oglala, Brule, Hunkpapa, Miniconjou, Sihasapa, Uhenumpa, and Itazipco. Each has its unique traditions and leadership. The Lakota were deeply spiritual people who saw the Black Hills as their sacred home. Their spiritual practices of the Sundance and Vision quests significantly threatened the American Army because they gave the Lakota warriors bravery and a sense of direction. These rites bolstered Lakota's tenacity in battle. The U.S. Army would later pay poachers to exterminate the buffaloes as a strategy to drive the Native American tribes to surrender. One of their spiritual movements, the Ghost Dance movement, led to the Wounded Knee Massacre of 1890. The teachings of Paiute medicine men served as its foundation. They predicted that an impending upheaval would result in the eradication of white men from the planet and an upsurge of Native Americans. The Lakota people of both South and North Dakota soon came to associate the movement with something special. The movement's supporters believed that rituals and songs might guarantee the redemption of their lands, hasten the impending catastrophe, and bring back their dead. Some Lakota believers experienced a hypnotic state caused by the repetitive songs and shuffling circular mass dances shared by followers, while others wore unique shirts believed to repel bullets. They were terrified that the customs would inspire violence against them, according to white colonists. This religious movement led to a great uprising and slaughter. The Lakota Sioux tribe spreads fear through their significant military strength. They constituted one of the tribes that engaged the U.S. Army the most in resistance battles, so the Americans feared them. The U.S. Army's challenges in dealing with Lakota tactics impacted military strategy on the frontier. Lakota people's proficient use of mounted assaults and guerrilla warfare challenged traditional military doctrines. They were fierce warriors who won the Battle of Little Bighorn and the Great Sioux War of 1876 against General Custer and the U.S. Army. They also defeated the U.S. Army in the Red Cloud War, called the Bozeman War or the Powder River War. In the Wyoming and Montana territories between 1866 and 1868, this war saw an alliance army of the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Northern Arapaho tribes pitted against the United States and the Crow Nation. Red Cloud War was named after Red Cloud, an influential Lakota Sioux tribal war leader. The U.S. Army suffered its worst ever loss to Plains Indians in this battle. The Lakota Sioux tribe had famous and fearsome leaders with great military prowess. Key figures in the Lakota resistance movement included Red Cloud, Crazy Horse, and Sitting Bull. Their charisma, strategic insight, and capacity to bring diverse Lakota bands together increased the power of the Lakota resistance. Red Cloud spearheaded the Red Cloud's War, while Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull spearheaded the Great Sioux War, leading to Custer's and his troops' extermination. The Lakota Sioux personified Native Americans' resistance to westward migration. Their lasting legacy results from their ability to fiercely defend their way of life, while simultaneously adapting to changing circumstances. The U.S. Army feared the Lakota Sioux because of their military strength, flexibility, and will to withstand outside influences. The Lakota people's legendary status as fierce warriors and representations of the tenacity of Native Americans live on in the more extensive chronicle of indigenous peoples' interactions with European settlers and the United States government. The second most feared Native American tribe by the U.S. Army is the Apache tribe. The Apache tribe Apache are Native Americans from North America who played a significant role in Southwest history in the latter half of the 1800s. Their name most likely comes from a Spanish translation of the Zuni word for enemy, Apache. Before Spanish colonization, the Apache domain covered now eastern, central, and southeast Arizona, southeast Colorado, eastern and southwestern New Mexico, western Texas, and northern Chihuahua and Sonora states in Mexico. The Apache people lived in the harsh and arid regions that are now parts of Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Their ability to adapt to the harsh desert environment demonstrated their resilience. They traveled over the vast swaths of the Southwest on foot. Their ability to navigate rugged terrain and their profound knowledge of the area allowed them to move around more easily. In the American Southwest, the Apache tribe was one of the most feared Native American nations. Even now, they remain one of the most well-known and widely publicized tribes. The Apache people had a well-established reputation as fearsome fighters who could commit severe acts of violence and torture, both domestically and abroad. Long before officials from the U.S. government and military attempted to bring civilization to the American Southwest, the Apache had an entrenched conflict with Mexico close to home, marked by rising hostilities and resentment on both sides. The Apaches were New World Vikings who raided, pillaged, and plundered. They were especially dreaded during battle and well known for their horrific captivity abuse. They greatly appreciated anyone with the ability to conjure up agonizing scenarios. They were also known for their savagery act of skinning and roasting their white captives alive. In the past, the Apache had raided rival tribes and occasionally one another in search of food, livestock, or hostages. The Aboriginal people conducted raids in small groups with specific objectives, viewing them as distinct from warfare. They seldom banded together to amass armies comprising hundreds of soldiers. The earliest Spanish settlements in the Southwest were when the Apache and other Native Americans first engaged in conflicts. Years later, the U.S. government sparked additional hostilities when they started moving other Indian tribes onto Apache territory, starting in roughly 1830. During that period, the customary raids and relationships between the tribes intensified and increased frequently. They gained a strong reputation for their 19th century resistance to the American army. They were a formidable opponent because of their fierce determination, mastery of guerrilla warfare tactics, and ability to adapt to the harsh environment. They could take advantage of the terrain because they deeply understood it. They were skilled at using natural features for ambushes and surprise attacks, which is how they waged guerrilla warfare. The U.S. Army feared the Apache tribe because they had notable leaders. Among them were Cochise, Mangus Coloradas, Geronimo, and Victorio, all of whom constituted great terror for the American army. The chief of the Chokonan band of the Chiricahua Apache, Cochise, was instrumental in protecting Apache territory. His leadership during battles and strategic acumen had a long-lasting effect on the tribe's history. One of those instances of terror was during the Mexican-American War, when American troops mistakenly believed that Cochise and his tribe had abducted a young boy during a raid, which led to the start of the First Apache Wars conflicts. The commander did not believe Cochise when he honestly claimed that they had not abducted the boy and that they would find him for the Americans. As a result, Cochise and his group were held captive until the boy was freed. Following Cochise's quick escape, his Apache band and their supporters encircled the American forces and demanded the release of the remaining members of Cochise's party, leading to a standoff. The Apache withdrew, thinking they were being flanked, following the standoff that resulted in the capture of 3 more Braves, as well as numerous American soldiers and mail carriers. The Apache killed the soldiers and postal workers they had captured as payback for the troops' refusal to release their people. The women and children were released, but the 6 men who had been taken prisoner were killed by the army. Cochise rallied the Apache tribes and declared battle on the United States, which sparked the Apache Wars. Geronimo was also a symbol of Apache resistance. The Apache's formidable reputation was primarily attributed to his leadership qualities and propensity to avoid capture for extended periods. The American army feared the Apache because of their great military tactics. They were masters at hit-and-run strategy, carrying out unexpected assaults on both military installations and residential areas. They were formidable opponents because of how well they could strike quickly and disappear into the wide-open spaces. Apache warriors were able to launch quick and devastating raids on American and Mexican settlements while mounted on horses. They became elusive targets very quickly due to their excellent distance travel. Apache clans did not usually congregate in large groups. They only did this to get ready to launch massive formation attacks against the U.S. Army. Because they feared the Apaches would gather enough support to form a war party, the U.S. Army detested them so much that they would fight virtually any size group they came across. It took them over 20 years of focused effort to put the Apaches at bay. The Apache people's legacy serves as a living example of the resilience of Native Americans in the face of enormous adversity. The third, and also the toughest and most warlike of the Native American tribes that the U.S. Army feared was the Great Comanche tribe. The Comanche tribe, originating in the southern plains of North America, the Comanche were a formidable Native American tribe known for their extraordinary horsemanship, strategic insight, and combat prowess. In the 1800s, the U.S. Army encountered many difficulties battling the Comanche. The Comanche Indian tribe were equestrian nomads in the 18th and 19th centuries. The Ute word from which the name Comanche originates means anyone who wants to fight me all the time. You can smell aggressive violence from the meaning of their name. One of the first tribes to purchase horses from the Spanish was the Comanche, and they were among the few to engage in horse breeding. They were the only Indians to fight battles while mounted, an ability not shared by other tribes. The Texas frontier people were terrified of the word Comanche. The Comanche were feared even by the different tribes and the U.S. Army because of their notorious raids. They lived lives filled with fighting. In the Comanche people's lives, warfare was significant. Among the many reasons the Comanche went to war was to obtain goods and horses that they had stolen, as well as people they had abducted and imprisoned. Everyone was afraid of the Comanche moon for a reason. The Comanche raided the U.S. Army during full moons. But it's also important to remember that a large number of Indian women and children perished. The Army would execute the soldiers with no exceptions. Also, practically every violent act was attributed to the Comanche because they were so well known for committing these crimes. Some of the actions they were accused of might not even have been committed by them. It has even been suggested by some that white people made up stories to encourage people to hunt down the Comanche. Matilda Lockhart's account of the 1840 Council House fight in San Antonio may be one such instance, except for that one teenage girl named Matilda Lockhart. A Comanche band was supposed to bring all its white captives. She was, according to the story, severely burned off in the face and severely disfigured. The officials decided to take the Indian Peace Council hostage until the other prisoners arrived after she informed them about the existence of additional prisoners. A brawl ensued, resulting in the deaths of more than 30 Native Americans. The Native Americans killed and tortured every prisoner they held, even small children. The Comanche's installation of fear affected the growth of frontier settlements, settlers' movements, and the U.S. Army's strategy for interacting with Native American nations. The Comanche also had great leaders who struck terror among the Americans with their strategic warfare and military skills. For instance, Quanah Parker was the last chief of the Quahati band. Renowned Comanche chief Quanah Parker became a symbol of Comanche resistance. He was a formidable opponent because of his capacity for leadership and situational flexibility. Another reason why they were formidable is because they were a very skillful tribe. The Comanche were extraordinarily agile and able to make quick movements on the battlefield because they used horses. They were able to travel long distances and strike in unexpected places. They also developed their mounted archery skills to the point where they could shoot precise arrows while moving quickly. Because of this, they were highly lethal in open-field combat. Like the Apache tribe, the Comanche had mastered the art of the hit and run. They would strike military and civilian targets unexpectedly, disappearing before a counteroffensive could be planned. They showed flexibility in their warfare tactics. Comanche's adaptability was displayed during the Battle of Adobe Walls of 1864. They demonstrated their strategic prowess by successfully attacking a buffalo hunter's camp despite being outnumbered. They could fight in large-scale conflicts, ambushes, and guerrilla warfare, making it difficult for the U.S. Army to anticipate their movements. The unconventional tactics of the Comanche presented challenges for the U.S. Army. They were a dangerous force against the U.S. Army because of their reputation for military skill, flexibility, and mobility. The broader history of Native American interactions with European settlers and the U.S. government bears witness to their legacy as accomplished warriors and symbols of resistance. And there you have it, viewers. The Apache, Lakota, and Comanche tribes, real-life warriors who challenged the might of the U.S. Army. These were no mere tribes. They were forces of nature galloping across the Army's plains like they were born to ride horses. It is more than just wars and disputes. It is evidence of tenacity, flexibility, and a strong bond with the land. These tribes were respected for their unwavering spirit in the face of change, not just because they were feared. Catch you next time on another adventure in the Natives' Journal. Until then, feed your curiosity and keep exploring. Don't forget to click the like button, share, and subscribe to this channel.